Operation Ivy is probably the poster child for my discoveries on Mods and Rockers. I can't remember all the Operation Ivy tracks I heard on Mods and Rockers, but that first week I ever tuned in, I got a double dose without even realizing. Just to make sure I didn't miss anything, I taped the episode so I could go back and listen to my favorite tracks and then go find the albums. That fateful first night they played Artificial Light. To my surprise, it wasn't hard to track down an album either. The compilation CD with Energy, Hectic, and the tracks from Turn It Around. Then about 16 minutes in, Bankshot comes on and my brain explodes. I know this song. Why did I know this song? It was the song that Mods and Rockers used as their intro. At this point, I had no idea there was any connection to Rancid. That would come another day and another brain meltdown. Energy wasn't Operation Ivy's first release. Hell, it wasn't even Tim and Matt's first band together. By the time Energy came out, Operation Ivy had already become one of the defining bands of that early 924 Gilman Street scene, with tracks on the Turn It Around compilation and the Hectic EP. And Hectic mattered because it helped establish Operation Ivy's blend of ska and hardcore punk as more than just a novelty. It also helped cement Lookout Records as a real label. While it serves more to show how important Operation Ivy was to Lookout, Larry Livermore, Lookout Records founder, has said Lookout was effectively started to put out an Operation Ivy record. In reality, his own band, the Lookouts, were the first release, and Hectic was only the third. It's also important to note that the scene at the time was in transition. Hardcore had come and gone and splintered into various new subgenres, like post-hardcore, crossover, and even melodic punk. Third wave ska wasn't even on the radar yet. So Operation Ivy's fusion of hardcore aggression with ska and reggae rhythms was something that felt unique. Contrary to popular belief, the album was actually more refined and less banged out than people think. While the final version of the album recorded at Sound and Vision with Kevin Army has become legendary, much like Fugazi's In on the Killer Takers album, there were earlier sessions that got scrapped, and some of the songs were refined before their final forms got released. And Energy's history is no less legendary than those Fugazi Albini sessions. In this case, that earlier session was an attempt to capture the band's live energy on the stage at Gilman Street, after hours when the place was cleared out. Some of those tracks have survived on bootlegs, helping to show that progression. Ultimately, Kevin Army was able to help them translate their live performance into something clearer and bigger for that final album without sanding off any of their rough edges. Digging around to make this video, I have come across some comical descriptions of their musical style. But one that really stuck out as hitting the nail right on the head was, if somebody has never heard it, tell them to imagine a late 80s hardcore band that suddenly understood how to write choruses, then injected ska rhythms without turning it soft or goofy. And it'd be no surprise that bands like Clash, Minor Threat, Jerry Kids, and Stiff Little Fingers have shown up as some of the influences for their sound. When you hear tracks like Bombshell, you can hear that hardcore punk DNA screaming through. She's a bombshell! She's a bombshell! Well, it pulls hard left into tracks like Unity and Bad Town, leaning heavily into those ska sounds. This album is unique in how you can hear the sum of their influences without it feeling derivative. But it also helped create that important segue into the 90s and provided an influence to so many important bands that followed. When I was trying to pick a couple of tracks to highlight, I was kind of stuck. I wanted to highlight all of them. It's so easy to find myself going off on some sort of passionate rant about them. Sound System has always been such an important track to me. It's been one of those pick-me-up tracks. You've got this rhythmic ska bounce with a bit of swagger and looseness to it, while it's paired with a quick tempo. It's a love song to music, the community, and your own liberation through sound, which honestly helped to shape my own love of music. Take Warning has this shouted hardcore urgency over a more relaxed ska track. Stand by your way, run away, take your life, just that. It's just so stupid as you can fight, take a lot of time, but you got no limit, you're all back in the way of it. It also channels the band's politics without sounding preachy. It's a track about violence in the scene at the time, and Unity is the anthem. It is built for a packed room shouting back at the band. The chorus is huge, the tempo is charging, and the song's whole shape feels designed for communal release. It was important enough that Operation Ivy ended their final Gilman Street set with it.
The wall coming down to across the night.
Captures a hopeful side of the band without losing their urgency. And Bad Town is a great pick if you want to show how much range the album has. Pitchfork even pointed out that it's the only track on the album that has a horn, which makes it stand out sonically. The song still hits hard, but it leans more openly into ska. The lyrics broaden the record's sense of pace, turning urban frustration into something almost cinematic. It's no shock here that the big lyrical themes are alienation, community, anti-authoritarianism, social unfairness, scene ethics, youth pressure, and the search for honest connection. This is not a breakup album, and it's not a narrowly political manifesto either. It's a record about trying to stay aware and principled in a world that rewards numbness and conformity. Jesse Michaels later said that his songs generally came from feelings rather than ideologies, and a lot of the writing was about unfairness. At the time of the release in 1989, Energy was not a mainstream commercial story. It came out through Lookout as an underground punk record on vinyl and cassette, and its first audience was the DIY punk network, not commercial radio or major magazines. So the initial reception was more scene level than mass media. That relative absence of press itself is part of the story. With the scene though, the album hit immediately. It was also potentially misunderstood in the broader sense because the band broke up almost immediately after its release. The record ended frozen in amber almost the moment it appeared, and their breakup helped to create that mythology. The long-term legacy of Energy is where it becomes enormous. Today it is widely treated as one of the foundational albums of ska punk and one of the key records to come out of East Bay punk scene. It's been called a landmark, a classic, and in some cases the original ska punk album, whether you agree with that or not. Fans treat Energy like sacred text, while modern critics have finally caught up and largely agree that it is a genre-defining album. Popping over to the Wikipedia page for the album, it even says the album has gone gold with over 500,000 copies sold. Here's a couple of interesting facts I came across while I was researching this video. We already know it was the band's only studio album, but the planned record release party at Gilman became their last official public show. They played one more unofficial show the next day in a friend's backyard in California. This feels a little wrong saying it, but it does check out. Bad Town features the album's only horn, which helps explain why it jumps out so sonically. Green Day's cover of Knowledge helped the song spread beyond the punk scene, and Jesse Michaels directly acknowledges that. Operation Ivy reportedly played 180 to 185 shows in about 2 years, which helps explain why the album sounded so locked in. The band later took its recordings back from Lookout because of unpaid royalties. And the band's name comes from the 1952 US hydrogen bomb test, Operation Ivy, which makes the album's title Energy feel a little more thematically on brand in hindsight. Energy matters because it helped define what ska punk could be before the genre had a mainstream template. Operation Ivy took the speed and urgency of hardcore and fused it with ska rhythm and melody, and made it feel both explosive and emotionally sincere. The album came out of the 924 Gilman DIY scene, then immediately turned into a legend when the band broke up, almost as soon as it was released. Decades later, it still sounds like a blueprint and an outlier at the same time. It's one of those rare punk records that feels historically important without feeling like a bit of a cliche. And to me, this album has been such an important album in my catalog, and I've always enjoyed hearing the cover tracks from this album, like Death Threat's cover of Bombshell. So on that note, what's your favorite cover of an Operation Ivy track? Let me know in the comments.